Mr. Ambassador, good evening. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be on European show.
Thank you. The fact that we do not expect surprises in the text of March progress report indicates that actually the decision to set a date for negotiations will be political again and will depend on the political willingness of those countries who have some kind of dilemmas about the enlargement process. Do you think that the new methodology will help and will endorse these forces in a way?
Well, decision is always political because member states decide whether to include new members into the club called European Union. So it's always political. Now on new methodology, I think many countries share the view that the enlargement was not working properly. I think on both sides, candidate countries felt that the process goes too slow. And that's why they were not very eager to do reforms, because they didn't see that they are actually moving to European Union. On the other side, member states were seeing that the reforms are not being done, so they were slowing down the process as well. So it was, less for less reforms and then less process. What the new methodology tries to do is to turn it around into more for more. That's why it tries to make the process more dynamic, more predictable, and more credible. So, as I understand, this is something that member states feel comfortable. We'll still have to see. The discussion is still ongoing in Brussels about the new methodology. But it seems that they accepted that if countries do more, they can also progress more. They have access to more funds. They can have access to the table earlier in the process. We'll have to put the methodology to the test, and I hope
in practice
to see how it works. I think it will be very key to demonstrate to member states and also to candidate countries that it works, that it is different, and that countries can move faster if they do more reforms. But in order to test it, we'll have to open negotiations. So I think we're very much looking forward to that decision as well.
Talking about that decision, those who analyze the situation, who knows the situation, thinks and put their greatest concerns still in the position of some of the member states regarding Albania. Do you think that the European Union will remain in the position of putting these two countries in a group and abandoning the merit system? Because somehow we are now in a situation when the European future of our country depends on the progress of another state.
No, I'm pretty sure that member states will, and the European Union will stay with the merit principle. It's the only principle that the negotiation should be based, each country on its own. I don't think we should look at Albania as competition or as somebody who is dragging down North Macedonia. I think what we want to see in the region is that the region is helping each other, and that rather that each other is pushing down, that the countries are pulling up,
helping
each other, that they're not fighting for the one life vest that's in the sea, because there are enough of life vests for everybody. Can you imagine, or we can only imagine, if there is agreement between Serbia and Kosovo, if Bosnia becomes a candidate country, if Montenegro comes to the end of negotiations, can you imagine what kind of new momentum there will be in the region? And of course, Albania and North Macedonia negotiating very fast according to the new methodology. This will create a completely new momentum, and it will change perspective of the region in member states. And we need to change perspective in member states so that at the end of the road they will also agree to for countries to enter.
I ask you this question actually because the clear message even from President Macron was that opening negotiation only with one country will somehow mean a signal for destabilization of the region. That's why I ask, does it mean that the merit system actually is abandoned?
Yes, I understand. Even though in October the main issue was this methodology.
You think that it was actually the problem?
That was the problem, and that's why they didn't take any decision on the two countries. So we'll have to see now in the next weeks and maybe months. They said before May, so let's see what they will decide, if they will take a decision. I think the expectations have been raised, especially on your side. I don't know a lot about Albania, but I know that on your side you really did everything that was expected, even more. So I hope the member states will definitely are aware of that.
We do have an expectation, that's for sure. Among ambassadors who were first to welcome the new law for public prosecution, although the opposition claimed that it was, as they say, adopted in an illegitimate procedure, and they are suspicious that the text left room for amnesty of the crime. Why do you thought and why do you think actually that this law is important for European integration, but also for the reforms here?
Well, we welcomed the law because we were pushing for that law as well. We were quite vocal about the need to adopt that law, or how good it would be to adopt that law. We accept that the Speaker has the authority to interpret rules of procedure of the Parliament. He's in charge of the Parliament, and we respect his decisions. So we don't question that, and that's why we accepted that the law was adopted with required majority. And we don't have concerns with the draft of the law that some people have. But why it is important for people here, because it shouldn't be seen as the thing that you did because of the European Union.
Yes, actually it's not even a condition, formal one.
Yes, it's not. I think it's more demonstration to member states of commitment to the rule of law. Why? Years ago, when the wiretaps came out, there was huge numbers of people demonstrating because they were shocked of the crimes that they heard on the wiretaps, and because they wanted accountability for the wiretapping, and they wanted accountability for the crimes. That's why SPO, CEO was established, and no matter what happened last year, I still believe that they did a great work going through the files, through the wiretaps, producing cases that are now in the courts. Unfortunately, as it seems, the head of the CEO went to the dark side, let's say, and betrayed the trust of citizens and also of internationals, I would say. But that doesn't diminish the work that the SPO did, but they haven't finished the work. So those cases needed to be continued and to be finished in order for accountability to be established.
Yes, but actually the accusations are in that direction, that the text left room for some kind of amnesty of the crime.
We don't see where is the amnesty for the crime. We see that by this law allows the cases to continue, regularize the situation, and allows the cases to continue, so that at the end of the day the accountability will be established. There will be no rule of law in the country, no trust in judiciary, even no trust in politicians, unless these cases are clarified and finished. And that's why I think it's important for people here. For us it was important, as I said, as a commitment demonstration,
as a signal,
that you consider this important element of the rule of law.
Are you concerned about the position of the main opposition party regarding the PRESPA agreement?
I go a lot around the country, and lately I speak mostly with the high school students. And they really open up to me at those meetings. I really enjoy them. And they have a lot of concerns, but not with PRESPA. They have
bigger issues.
They have concerns for their lives, about migration, whether they'll have to move, about the jobs, about the corruption, about the environment, about education, about health. They have a lot of issues, but this usually doesn't come up. This was debated during the referendum. I hope that now, of course we are into election period and all these issues are coming up, but I hope that that as we enter into the next weeks of the campaign, that these issues will come up, because if I can be a messenger of these young kids, these are the answers. They're looking for the answers, that there will be that politicians will provide answers to these problems.
For the quality of life and not this high-profile politics.
So that they will see the life at home. They will not look for the life abroad.
we are worried all about this quality of the public debate. How do you see this narrative food with hate speech and fake news and personal attacks? Because we think that there is no space for a substantial clash of programs and ideas to be present.
Yes, I think there's a lot of that, what you mentioned. And of course, one can be concerned. We are only at the start of the campaign, not only official campaign, but the start of the procedure, let's say, of the election period. And it's quite tense atmosphere, it's true. I hope that entering the campaign, that the parties will start talk about the real issues. The one that I mentioned before. Kids were asked me the last time in Probishtim, they said, what can the EU do to keep the youth at home? And that made me think. And I was reflecting, and then I answered something, what can we do? But it also triggered our reflection in the office now, in delegation. What can we do more to help young people to stay at home? And we are doing, and we'll do more. But these are the answers, for politicians now during the campaign, to tell them what they're going to do to keep them at home. Because what the kids are saying, they're just quarreling who is guilty that we are leaving, but nobody's telling us what they're going to do to stay. So I hope that in the next weeks, this debate will come up. And I think media has an important role here. When there will be debates, and media can direct the debates of the leaders of the political parties on the real issues, away from purely ideological or political issues.
Yes, we do have responsibility. Mr. Verhey, who was here recently, he said, actually he explained the help of 50 million euros European money which will enter into the country to help the implementation of reforms. The data show that there is some progress in usage of European money, but still there are some, it's not sufficient. So what are the biggest remarks and challenges?
Yes, when the Commissioner was here, he announced 50 additional millions that were coming. Usually we give around 90 million a year. And now additional 50 will come as a performance award, as we call it.
Some said it's some type of conflict for the decision in October.
I think it's more recognition for the work that was done in this country. And Albania also got 28 million. But like a recognition of the commitment that was shown through several reforms that were done, and the difficult period that you went through. So 50 million will come. And yes, the issues, why don't we spend it money faster? I think it's, the procedures are very slow, institutions are very weak, your ministries are weak, very slow in processing. Many times the projects are not ready. We would want to do a lot in municipalities, but they don't have projects. They don't have money for projects, to prepare projects. These are mainly the issues.
Lack of knowledge, maybe, lack of practice, experience.
It's more lack of appropriate personnel in the ministries. A lot of people left. People who were working on IPA funds in several ministries left in the past years. And it takes time to get new people, it takes time to train them. And most of the funds are not distributed by us, delegation, but by the ministries. So very slow procedures, I would say. Very slow procedures, not enough administrative staff. People afraid of taking responsibility, administrative people afraid of taking responsibility, so everything has to go up to the minister or the leaders, so that delays the decision making.
Let's go back for a moment to the decision to set a date for negotiations. Some voices says that EU should be careful because somehow data for negotiation in this period can mean interference into the elections. But the fact is that actually elections themselves wouldn't even take a place if Brussels kept its promise in October. So do you think that it's important to separate these two and the decision for negotiations to be seen through the prism of principles, not domestic politics.
Definitely. I think when Commissioner was here, he was talking about this. You know, when we miss so many opportunities on both sides, let's say. In the past years, so many opportunities were missed to move forward that we cannot afford to say, maybe it's not a good time for this, maybe it's not a good time for that. Whenever there will be a good time, I think we should grab it. Now you have...
There is no wrong time for a good decision, probably.
Yes, yes. Now we have methodology on the table. The report for the country will come now in the next days on the table. Member states will have those documents. If they decide, if there is agreement in the room to open negotiations, I wouldn't say, well, wait, they have elections, let's come back in, I don't know, June. You don't know what will happen in June. So, you know, whenever there is a white smoke in the room, I think we should grab it. And decision is not for one party or the other party. Decision is for the country and for citizens of the country who are fed up waiting for this decision. So I think they deserve that whenever decision is ready, that it comes, whenever that is. And at the end of the day, a lot of reforms, or some of the reforms, were adopted with the opposition helping. You know, there were a lot of two-thirds majority reforms. Unfortunately, not the last one on PPO, but there were others before, also on judiciary, that were adopted with the support of opposition. So they can claim that they contributed to getting the date as well. So I hope that this will be the mind when the date is coming, that the date will not come, or the open negotiations will not come for the politicians. I think it will come for citizens who have been so patiently waiting for so long.
My last question will be about the wider picture, about the position in the EU. What do you think the main challenges of the European Union will be in this year when the Great Britain left?
Well, the major challenge at the moment is budget of the European Union, which we
actually,
we just failed.
Quite a debate, actually.
It was quite a debate, 30 hours of debate.
As you mentioned, do you think that it can be a bad signal for the enlargement process? Maybe it would be better if they agreed for the money.
Of course, it would be better if this is off the table, but I don't see why it should interfere or delay the decision. That's the big, you know, with Britain, UK leaving, there are 60 to 75 billion euros who are missing in the budget, so they have to agree how they distribute the loss in the budget. So they were not successful now, so they will continue. So this is the big issue that needs to be solved this year. Second, the whole debate about the future of Europe. Europe will have to change. And the debate will start now about the future of Europe, because there are several dilemmas. One dilemma is how to assure that member states continue to respect the values of the European Union. European Union was based on certain values. When you enter European Union, you're asked to respect those values. When you're in the European Union, it gets more difficult. If the country departs from the values, it is difficult to get them back, as we are witnessing these days.
There's no mechanism, actually.
There is no mechanism. I think that this will be a big debate. The second, it will be decision-making in the European Union. Now that we are 27, and then, you know, when we'll be 30 and so on, it will be more and more complicated. Even now it's complicated to take decisions, especially on foreign policy issues. So the debate will be whether we'll go into majority decision-making, not necessarily on unanimity. And then there will be debate whether do we want more Europe or less Europe. You know, whether do we want to come more together, to have more common policies, or we want to relax and have more national states. I think this will be, and probably many more issues will be discussed, but it's important for Europe. The Commission is saying that Europe wants to become geostrategic. This is geostrategic Commission that wants to establish Europe as a geostrategic player in international relations. Then probably we'll need to do some reforms inside the EU. It's
a debate that I guess will last.
That debate will last at least for the next 2 years. But it's also a debate that you shouldn't watch only from far. I think because the EU that we will change will be the EU that you will enter. So I think it's quite important that you follow, and why not even contribute with ideas how the new EU should look like, or EU 2.0 should look like in the future.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you for having me.